Okay, so let's take a look at this story idea that I'm roughing out. The raw idea: a female park ranger protects a teenage Girl Scout in the wilderness when killers try to abduct her to prevent her father from testifying against a high-level criminal enterprise. Roughing out the story. I want to give her some serious skills, but not be one of those off-the-charts wilderness survival specialists so that the chase is more of a challenge. But I also don't want her to be some former Special Forces ultra-skilled cliche, so I'm making her a former Navy nurse who's suffering from PTSD. That way she has some skills, some serious skills, and she also has PTSD. We see from some flashbacks that she served on an aircraft carrier that had an explosive limpet mine attached to its hull and which exploded below decks, killing many in a horrific fire. She was one of the very few survivors. I call her Megan. For this example, I'm not developing her character too deeply, but I do want her to have some skills and a deep emotional wound. So Megan ends up on a mountaintop in the wilderness as a park ranger, getting some solitude in which to heal. When a troop of hiking Girl Scouts camps on her mountain, she welcomes them and stays for dinner. The counselor reassures a teen, Casey, who says she's really scared because her father is testifying against a criminal in a few days. Then, when they're attacked in the dark by a group of men trying to kidnap Casey, Megan and the counselors fight back using fire, darkness, and a shovel. When Casey gets grabbed, Megan kills the guy with the rock in her belt, but one of the counselors and a Girl Scout gets killed as the women run into the wilderness. I see it as a story in which Megan uses such things as snares and rattlesnakes and dead drops to fight off the pursuers as they run for safety. In order to demonstrate reverse cause and effect, I pick up the story after the chase has been going on for a while. Okay, so I'm trying to show you my real process because I don't want this to be a demonstration of something that I figured out beforehand. I'm making it up as I go along. So I showed you the raw idea. So here is some notes that I did to flesh that out, to think it through. And you can see up top, I got a PTSD park ranger fights to save a federal witness's daughter in the wilderness. I want it to be a savage thriller, a damaged hero way in over her head. And one of my questions was, does the girl have an eidetic memory? Therefore, she's a key witness. Maybe she has missing pages in her brain. And it reminded me of this script called Mercury Rising with Bruce Willis and this autistic kid. If she has an eidetic memory and has some missing pages in her head, then it makes a decent reveal. So I'm just thinking out loud here on paper to show you guys. Okay, so the next thing I'm thinking about is, all right, well, what are all the kind of things you can use as weapons in the woods? Forest fire, flood, maybe a flash flood or break a dam, a landslide, a hornet's nest, mother bear, lightning, axe, bulldozer, flare, firefighting equipment, a mine shaft, snare, dead drop, gasoline, dynamite, hunters, bow and arrow, spear, poison, stampede, grass fire, backtrack, payphone, blend in, rattlesnakes, sabotage, get them to turn on each other, some kind of trap, pretend to be hurt, a cliff, picnic table, waterfall, wolves, hanging. This is just a raw list of things to utilize in the story. Some of the other things I'm looking at: need a great villain, so try out like a psychotic killer, want a flawed hero, the PTSD Navy nurse, the MacGuffin, the thing that they're after. I want to have the girl not just be a pawn, but have an eidetic memory. She has missing pages of key evidence or the key to the encryption. And I want a savage, ferociously explosive ending. Maybe she's trapped in a forest fire, wounded. The bad guys are escaping with the girl. Our hero Megan sees herself back in the fire in the aircraft carrier that killed everyone and sees the nurse who died getting her out. And that nurse kind of wakes her back up, helps her fight through the fire and fight through her own trauma, because that would disable her in the middle of the fire, was the way I was seeing it. And this nurse who saved her life on the carrier and died doing it shows up as a ghost in this fire and helps her power through her traumatic disability that's crippling her. And I want the girl Casey to testify in court, have her unlock an encryption. I want a savage, explosively brutal ending. And I came up with the idea that Megan, in order to get through the fire, wraps herself inside the skin of a grizzly bear. So to be able to do that, she'd have to kill the grizzly with an axe, but they get Casey, leaving Megan pinned under the dead grizzly as fire rages all around them. And that would be because the psycho finds them, and that would be because they hide in a cave as the forest fire explodes all around them. But then there's a mother grizzly hidden in there hiding from the fire with her cubs. And just playing, with images that pop up, a bear on fire, a logging camp, the psycho kills the cubs. So these are just genuine raw notes that I'm using to build this script. And here's the next pages of notes. The psycho goes downhill to escape the flames with Casey and heads for the chopper pickup where the governor awaits. The governor I invented as a character who's in on the conspiracy. Megan carves the fatty hide off the dead grizzly and gets into the skin to protect herself from the fire. And while the psycho goes downhill to go around the flames, Megan has to get there first, so she goes right up over the mountaintop, hallucinating the nurse who sacrificed her life to save her in the aircraft carrier fire, yelling encouragement and orders. And I see that nurse as a burning ghost. And I had Megan run through a burning logging camp. Maybe there's a chain. She jump starts an old Jeep, crashes downhill, crashes into the chopper. These are just elements that I'm coming up with. Crashing the Jeep into the chopper, she stops the chopper long enough to leap into it in the burning bearskin and fight to get Casey, and I have her get shot. She savages the psycho with the bear claws and throws Casey out, leaps out, crashes onto the Jeep. The chopper is taking off as the fire explodes toward this forest fire. She hooks the logging chain or winch cable to the chopper struts to keep it from flying away as wildfire explodes, and chopper burns and explodes in the fire. Megan gets face down in the swamp as the fire consumes everything. So these are raw notes that I pulled the story together from. Okay, and then what I did was I wrote out the reverse cause and effect for this story. And as we get into the actual course, I will be explaining the tool in action as I do it. So here is reverse cause and effect. I write the stuff out by hand. That's the way I operate. So you can pause this and look at it. We'll be seeing it typed up, but I wrote it up. We're working backwards through the stuff that I roughed out in those notes. So then there's this page, and you can see that as I'm reasoning backwards through the cause and effect, I had this and I realized, wait, we're missing a major chunk of action. So I'm like, this is what causes this. You'll understand this more as I show you. Here's the next page of the cause and effect that I'll be showing you typed up. And I got to this page and I was like, okay, so I don't have a cause of this. So I'm like, all right, well, what are the things that happened before it? So come up with, and I was like, okay, so some of what happens before is where she kills the bear. And I'm like, what's the cause of that? Well, to find the cause of that, you have to look at the things that happened before it. So I list out some of the things that happened before, like Dancer sets the forest fire. He's the psycho killer Dancer. The explosive reveal that Casey has eidetic memory and her dad showed her the key to decrypt the file after her mother got murdered. And maybe that comes out when Dancy captures them, then they escape from him. In other words, maybe the reveal happens when Dancer captures them earlier, then they get away, then he sets the forest fire, so they go into the cave where this confrontation with the bear and everything happens. So this is just the real process of building cause and effect when it doesn't even really exist yet. Okay, so now once I'd figured out that batch from that 3x5 card, then I write it up. And then here, Dancer torches the forest fire, which is caused by her escaping from the log cabin, corners them in a log cabin. Then we're back to the beginning of the story. So this is exactly how I do it. I always do this by hand when I'm figuring it out before I write a script. This is how I write a script. Now we'll go to typing this up so you can see it properly. But I wanted to show you my real process. I'm trying to make this as real and practical and usable as possible. Okay, so if you like the class, please hit the like button. It really helps. Please subscribe so you get new classes as I put them out. And please check out my 3-month and 2-year training programs for writers at script.kitchen. I'll train you to expert capability at this tool and the rest of my 7 tools. Thanks. If you like this class, you can download this free ebook by going to this link right here and subscribing to my website.